Hey guys, JFGamers1 here, coming to you with another review. Now this is going to be a little bit different than most of the other ones because I'm usually kind of doing more, but this one I want to get out because I want to talk about this particular game. If you see behind me, if it shows clearly, Fallen Legion, Sins of the Empire. I would like to thank Yummy Tummy Studios, or Inc., either way you want to go for it, for giving me this opportunity to talk about this game. I will be doing actual purchase and giving away this game away somehow, somewhat way, because this game deserves all the credits for. The game is really good. It's one of those games where you have to literally sit down and play to grasp everything. If you're familiar with Valkyrie Profiles, that's the best way to put how this game plays like. It's a 2D side scroller, but instead of like you actually scrolling, the character moves for you, and you have to do combination attacks with the exemplars that you get, with you. The story starts out with your main character, Cecil, getting the Grimoire, which is a book that was in her father's hands. No doubtly finding out that her father had passed, and that was being handed down to her. She winds up getting the book and using the book's powers to help herself dealing with stuff. While she doesn't want to be an emperor, she was convinced by her father's closest right hand to actually go ahead and try to, at least lead this on, because one, to give his father his final resting place, but also this is the thing of a best friend of hers. So she goes on to do this quest, and while doing so, there's a lot of deep story and twists that you have to learn, and it's something that I can't really spoil here. There's really much like after the very first part of the chapter that you have to sit down and think about. And like I said before, this game is a combo based game. You at the very beginning of the game will get exemplars that you unlock later on by fighting certain people. You get them usually in the first stage, so you're not really going to be trying to hunt them down very later on, even though some special ones do appear. You have to hit certain conditions, and these conditions can be done by the choices you make. During the game, you will be fighting enemies, and while you will be going to the next set of enemies, you will be making choices. Each choice will affect how the game plays, from you getting different items, abilities, and what may be good for you. So let's say at one point you may have no exemplars, and one of them is like, hey look, if you do this you can get an exemplar, but that cost if you do an exemplar may lower the moral of your entire empire. So sometimes it's good to take a risk to actually get it more, or sometimes it's to take that really daring chance of lowering your morale, but to help yourself. Because from how the game plays, it really shows that. Each one of your exemplars has their own life bar, their known attack and defensive stats that you can see at the very beginning of the screen. Later on, they get more special death blow attacks, which is moves that when hit certain requirements and the certain link on the combo bar, they'll be able to do. Each combo is done by a press of a button, depending on which one they're at. The main character, back Cecil, she'll be able to do magic attacks while hitting the triangle button and holding up or down or just leaving it neutral. Neutral is magic, which you will throw about 3 shots that will hit the opponent. Your up button, it will be your soul mancy, to where if an exemplar does die, you can bring them back from death. So you can use that. And the bottom one is healing. In this game, every last one of those magics are vitally important. You cannot miss one beat, one step, or you will lose. I've went into this game going in there head running and trying to, do with us, and guess what? I died. A lot. I had to sit down and learn how the combos. Yeah, you can kind of mash with buttons and everything with combos, but it doesn't work that way. In this game, unlike how Valkyrie Profiles is, this game has a feel of where when you start attacking, the enemies have that free roam to attack back. So instead of like you doing a combo and waiting for them to do their move, once you start shooting, they can start shooting off too, and chaos ensues. So you have a way to stop all that stuff that's coming on. You can block the attacks, but the thing about it is, if your character is in mid animation, they can't block an attack. They're open range for whatever's coming to. So sometimes it's best to leave one exemplar not using anything at the moment, just so you can block the oncoming attacks. Some of them you can't block, but some of them I haven't been able to get the timing for, but it depends on what it goes for. This game is heavily tilting on you actually being able to parry and continue the combo. The combo meter raises how much damage you actually do per enemy, which is vitally important. You lose a combo by either waiting too long or taking damage. If you don't parry at the right time, or if you don't, manage out how you're going to actually attack, the combos will become useless because they'll always reset. So always playing at your best can give you the better output of what's going to be for your team. Each member has a super that they have, each one varying in differencing. The ones I can show you that they have right here be shown on screen. I don't want to spoil all of them for you, but here's a few tastes of what you'll know for the first 3 exemplars that you'll actually get. During the main game, I mostly played with the main 3 exemplars, which is I'm gonna show the actual screen because their names don't get to me as I get to them now, but I'm sure. Well, one of them, Apollonius, I think I'm saying that right, and Zolfer, and I can't say the names because it's been a minute since I've actually sat down and played. But they all play differently. You have your tank, you have your range, and you have your spear, or pretty much a person that's second in command that's kind of helping out with dealing out with damage. I used them for the majority of the game, and they were really balanced for it. And honestly, I felt like for it, you could use the other ones, but it depends on what combo style you're into. So play around with it, and I will actually say for it. In this game, the music is beautiful. Listening to it is actually really cool. Some of the battle themes are really intense and will get you pumped up to actually play the game. While in calming, relaxing modes, it's really beautiful and it kind of gets touching for it. The story is more of I'm going to say it has some twists and turns. Some of them you may see coming, others you may not. But what I would say is, be ready for a story of retreat. It's not going to be the average story that you may have been into, but it's still a story nonetheless. With the decisions that you have to make, not only can you change the outcome of certain towns and how people will actually think of you in your morality towns, it also changes the ending that you get. I've only gotten one ending because I made sure I maxed out the morale of my town because that's what I thought for us. How endings are gotten, I don't know. Others can branch out and let me figure it out. I would surely would know the way to know because the game has been really focused on making sure every outcome does differently, which it does. Every choice that you make does affect everything you do, from the exemplars to the townspeople to the morale and to the paths that you will actually have to take in this game. So choose every card that you see wisely because each and every one of them will affect you in certain ways. When you do make the choice, it does heal your party, and at points, if you make good choices, it can also help with you for saying giving you a certain card and or giving you mana back. Those are one of the few things that's good for the choices, but sometimes you'll just get scolded and they tell you to kind of keep going on your little way. But the choices all ultimately come down to you. One thing about the game, if you notice the actual design, the design has a vanillaware feel to it. I don't know if there's former vanillaware people in it or if it's just something of a style that they chose, but I actually enjoyed the art style for it because it just gave that vanillaware feel for a game. And come on, it's kind of hard to not like a vanillaware game, but this is done by a different studio and I do praise the style that they took for it and the actual time for actually taking on for the game to do stuff. There are a few things I haven't explained about the game, mechanic-wise, and that's because some of them I kind of want you to, go about finding yourself. The one mechanic I will have to actually, explain before I wind up, going through it, is that you can rotate your party out a certain way just so you can make sure that your certain party members in. So for example, if your exemplar dies and you soul man tee it up, he'll come back, but he'll be in the back row. If he needs to be in the front, you can swap your characters a certain way just so he can get back up there. But you have to make sure you're carefully doing it, because at the wrong moment in time, people can take unnecessary damage and you can actually possibly lose an exemplar. The game at the beginning is not really easy, because you have to understand the systems of all the mechanics and everything going into it. After every end of the stage, you wind up getting a gemstone. However good you do on the stage is how good the gemstone is. Even choices can affect those gemstones. The gemstones, you can apply up to 3 onto you, and those 3 gemstones will affect the characters that you choose, the combo bars, and anything that it says that it will affect for you. Those will help you out in battle, and sometimes it's good, sometimes you just kind of get clones of the same ones. But it all depends on how good you are doing on the actual stages. So actually doing parries, doing combos, and being really offensive and properly defensive while being skillful shows a lot. The game, it lasts for, a few hours if you just sit and just grind on it. But it took me a couple of days because, I want to actually pace up the game and take the time with doing everything for it. So if you rush through it and just kind of like just almost select, you'll kind of get through the game with like little to less time for it. But if you take your time with the game, you'll get a bigger enjoyment out of it than you would just going rushing in through it. And on top of everything, the game has a lot going for it to where you can't just blindly go out there and attacking sometimes, because you will die. Once you lose your exemplars, you're the last thing left, and the last thing you have to do is mash the triangle button as fast as you can to gain magic to do spells. If you don't get enough magic to do a soul magic to bring somebody back, one hit and you're gone. That's it. Game over. They do have a 1 life mode, so expect that being really, really, really difficult for it. I didn't touch base on it. I want to touch the game for what it is, and I want to talk to you about that, and then, maybe I'll explore it at a different time or a different date. But now it's time for a few things that I have, but minorly, it's just a nitpick for me, and that would have to be with the parry system. Because with the parry system, you have to time it when you see the actual attack animations. Now, like I said before, if you're swinging wildly, you will never know, and you'll be hit out of a lot of animations. Granted, that could be done for enemies too, but it makes it really hard when you want to try to continue a combo, and the chaos ensues, and there's not showing of hit stun or anything, and just enemy just hits you out of it, and it goes for it. It's just a personal nitpick. Later on, I just kind of waited for my, big guy to actually block the damage, and I just send my other 2 in to actually do the damage that is needed, which is a little bit more of a strategic way to do it, but at the same time, you kind of still need him to actually help out with a lot more than just parrying. So, seeing that was also like, you need more for it. So I felt like there should be a way to more, kind of see what is going on, but it's one of the things to where it's kind of a personal nitpick personally for me. Some people probably won't have a problem with the blocking, but just be careful when throwing your characters out there. Another thing I'll say is a problem with is that I don't know if it's just how the game is or if there's something I'm doing wrong. It could be explained a little bit. But it doesn't feel like at points you could actually target things that you want unless you use certain skills. For example, there are certain parts to where there's going to be mages in the back spamming either Defenseless or Infernal Blaze, and you can't reach them. The only way you can reach them is by beating up the front people, which is usually big, huge guard things or people with a lot of HP. But you want to get rid of those mages that are in the back. The only way I found it is either doing a certain death blow with my spear and my archer to where I can make sure I can get rid of them. But at the same time, I have to try to work my front lines to get to them and do it. And when the person has a lot of HP, it's kind of hard to do so. So I don't know if that's just a certain thing, but I feel like I wish there was a little bit more of a way of kind of targeting what the problems are. But that's probably the way the game is based off of, and it's just still, again, a personal nitpick of mine. It doesn't take away from the game. It's just one of those little things where it's like kind of a little extra tidbit, kind of annoying for me, but I still enjoyed the game regardless. All in all, I enjoyed this game. This game is a real special treat to actually sit down and play. Anybody that's a Valkyrie Profile fan or something similar towards that, you'll actually kind of enjoy how the combo system and everything is in here. It's a little different. It takes time to get used to. The parry timing is really weird. Like, you have to do it not when they're about, as they are going to do it. This is not Third Strike. You have to do it just as you see them wind back. Because there comes a fight later on where that does become very important. And you fight tons of different enemies. Some of them will loop and repeat, but you fight different type of enemies and bosses that will really make you think of how to actually use your stuff or ultimately die. It happens. In the menu screen, which is actually kind of good, one thing that most games don't do, they give you all the information for where everything you have to do right at the beginning. Your spells, your exemplars, the history of the game, everything is done right there at the very beginning. And it even tells you all the stuff that you can earn for your characters when you select certain cards and get certain abilities or certain traits that can help you out in battle. Now, take it in consideration if you're not one that's really dealing with a lot of like chaos and combos, and you kind of want to be able to see everything that is going on. Be wary on how you do in the play this game, because you can get one point everything mashes and gets that chaos up in there, and you won't be able to see a thing, and you'll be taking unnecessary hits. Try to play more of a different way. I had to be a little bit more patient near the end because I had to actually be able to see what's coming on, block what's happening, and doing stuff. Perfect blocking helps out a lot. With perfect blocking, you can actually go ahead and block most attacks and parry some back. And that helps out a lot. But some of them, I have noticed that you can't parry back, but I don't know if there's a timing thing for it or something else. Get back to me. The best one is the Inferno Rage, where it's like all my characters are getting hit with fire and I don't know what to do, and I'm hitting block but it's not working. So some seems like you can't parry, other ones you can. Some things that you'll get really annoyed about, and that's defenseless. You can read about that in the game too. I hate defenseless so much when it's being spammed and there's nothing you can really do about it. I hate it. Trust me. But, wrapping up everything, my final verdict for Fallen Legion, Sin of the Empires, I will give it an 8 out of 10. And I would actually recommend this to people that are really fond of an RPG series that has a feel of Valkyrie profiles. It's not perfect but that's for me for a few things. If a few of those things could be issued out differently or gets explained to it, I could bump it up to a 9 or a 10. But that's me from coming just out of playing this game and understanding what it is for it. And I really enjoy it. It was really fun. And I really, really am glad I was able to actually play it. Again, yummy, yummy tummy. And thank you guys so much for letting me play this game. And I hope to see what else you have to produce in the future. Also, letting anybody know that if you do purchase the game, you get to do the Fallen Legion version for the PS Vita, which takes on a different side of the story. And I'm going to let that kind of leave that onto a little thing for you so you can kind of go find that out. But with that said, JFGamers1 is signing out, hoping you guys enjoyed my review of Fallen Legion, Sins of the Empire.